TASC Podcast, where we spotlight Saudi Arabia as the next destination for global business expansion. In October 2030, all eyes will be on Riyadh, as the city welcome 42 million visitors for one of the most exciting global gatherings, Expo 2030. Under the theme, The Era of Change, Together for Foresighted Tomorrow, 197 nations, 6 million square meters of pavilions and experiences, and more millions joining virtually in a celebration of human progress and imagination. Expo 2030 isn't just about showcasing innovation. It's about inspiring. It's about nations, creators, and change makers coming together to design that kind of future we all want to live in. For Saudi Arabia, Expo isn't just an event. It's a statement of vision and confidence. It reflects Vision 2030, bold transformation plan to diversify economy, empower young talent, and to lead the world in sustainable growth. The Expo site will be a living example of that ambition. Powered entirely by renewable energy, featuring AI-driven mobility, and built to evolve into a lasting hub for culture, research, entrepreneurship that lasts long after the closing ceremony. And today, joining us, someone who truly knows what it takes to bring an expo to life, Diana Estabridis Elbers. Diana is an experienced designer with over a decade of international experience across world expos, museums, and cultural destinations. She led the creative direction of Peru Pavilion exhibition design at Expo 2020 Dubai and worked on the experience concept for Peru Pavilion at Expo 2025 Osaka. She drove immersive culture and entertainment experience across the kingdom. Her work bridged design strategy, spatial storytelling, and international branding, bringing complex narratives to life. Diana has contributed to projects in Peru, Germany, Austria, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, shaping global conversations on how design can bring economies and people alike. Diana, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today, and welcome to TASC Podcast.
Thank you, Albatul. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks for having me here.
Thank you, Diana. Diana, from your perspective, what does it mean to host the next Expo 2030 in Riyadh for the kingdom, for the region, and also for global participants?
I think a universal exposition, wherever it is, it always attracts businesses, investment, tourism, always. And this time, as it is in Riyadh, which is preparing with such a big site, and as part of Vision 2030, the country itself is changing so much. It is just a showcase for what we can do when we really aim to create change in the world. Right now, all the eyes are turning now into the country, the city, expecting to see what will be the outcome of this expo. And I think it will bring, of course, employment to local people here. It will bring, as I said, the tourists, the investors, the businesses, but it will also be a game changer from what it was before and after Expo Riyadh, given this ambition of the country to create for the country itself so much change with the responsibility for a better life in the future. So I think there is a lot to look forward and a lot to expect.
Great. So you've been part with previous expos, and each expo has a defining theme. For Riyadh Expo 2030, it is the era for change, together for foresighted tomorrow. How do you see this theme translating into the emotional and physical experience for the visitors?
So the topic is definitely about transformation. If we talk about change, it implies a first situation and an ending situation, or a new situation that will keep evolving, of course. So I think it's good if we start thinking about what it means transformation, what it means change, use examples. For example, for the experiences itself, we can look into nature, how nature adapt to continue alive across a world that is in constant change. We can also bring changing settings into our spatial expo, into our spatial environments for each of the pavilions, making people aware of how their presence changes the surroundings and make that part of our storytelling. Because at the end, what we want is that we create a collaborative change. So it's a great stage to visualize how together people, participants, communities can create a transformation for a better future. Facades can react while people is passing by. The environment can show how many people is in the pavilion, how much the heat may rise. Just transforming these contents into information that adds to our story is always an interesting tool that we can use as a storytelling resource. And we have to use it as a stage, as I said, to create live moments that work as a collaborative or a collective moment so that people will be more engaged.
So what differentiates Expo 2030 Riyadh from the previous editions in terms of ambition, scale, and also regional impact?
I think all expos will be slightly different. Of course, it will always be more technological as we will have always more tools. In this case, Expo Riyadh will be very big. 6 million square meters is very, very big. Dubai was a little over 4 million, and Japan was pretty small. Of course, the country is small, the island was made especially for the expo, and it was also a nice shift to suddenly have a smaller scale. In this case, the size is already a big difference because it will imply much more master planning, much more of thinking of this expo as a city, not only a venue where we go to explore the pavilions, but it will create an experience like going to visit maybe a new town. So the question would be, how does this town look like? Is it the town of the future? Is it the town of sustainability? How can we merge all these concepts? I think that will differentiate a lot the way we create the experience for Expo this time.
Great. And how you see the visitor expectations evolving by 2030? What they will look for in Expo 2030?
I think what we will be all looking for every year from now on is more connection. There are many digital tools that we can use, but physicality will also be very important. The fact that we are standing there makes a difference. And the fact that we are standing together with other people, with the people we went to, or with people we don't know, it's a chance to just face other experiences and together create a new experiences, all of us together. So besides the connection, I also see while I'm here in Riyadh that there is a big development in luxury experiences. And I've been learning that what that really means is just having I will say luxury to design all the experience from the very first touch point to the very last moment the visitor steps out of your experience. And this may be physical, but also emotional. So it is really a luxury that we can access experiences that are thinking about the audience and the visitor in so many steps and in so many ways for families, for children, for youth, for adults, at earlier times in the day, at later times in the day, weekends, weekdays. So having that possibility to cater so many people in a professional way will be something that we have to count with for Expo, because audiences in Riyadh, in Saudi, are getting used to just experiencing such well-thought journeys all overall.
Of course. And you led the pavilion for Peru in Dubai Expo 2020, also in Osaka Expo 2025, which both won the gold medal for exhibition design. Can you share some insights from your success story that might help the upcoming pavilion teams for Expo 2030?
Yes, I think in that case, I'm really grateful of the teams I worked with, that we really pushed to have clarity on what is our message when we go out to an expo. Mm-hmm. It is the core of every design job to understand what we are saying with our experience in this case and why we are choosing to say that exactly this time. Because the past expo, we may have chosen another topic, another perspective. So every expo with the specific theme, the countries need to think about what are we saying to the international dialogue in regards to this theme, and reframe or recontextualize our content so that it fits this expo and it also engages with our audiences. Also, sometimes we have to choose. There are different experiences in that regard, but for a country like Peru, in my case, I found it really challenging, the fact that we have so much to say. So how do you choose what exactly? That's the moment where you have to consider, okay, what's the theme? What country am I? What is my audience? And what is my goal as a country? What is the project goals? What do we want to sell, to promote? Because if behind every country participation, there are very clear goals, business, investment, tourism. So we have to take those in mind.
Yeah. We'll have more questions on this, but since we are talking about previous expos and Osaka 2025 Expo has just ended, so have you noticed any innovative storytelling or exceptional approach from Osaka 2025 Expo? And how this will influence people expectations for Expo 2030?
Mm-hmm. I think there are two ways to think about it. One is the pavilions themselves. How do we design them? And in that regard, there are many ways to design these kind of experiences depending on the very different variables a country has. What I saw in Japan, I had different moments in different pavilions that really stayed in my heart, I will say in my body, because it really implies a lot of sensorial experiences, which were from experiences like Japan, where it felt just grounded. Mm-hmm. It felt that it all made sense. It was coherent. You just balance your content with your spatial settings in a very coherent way in every decision, from the material of the pavilion to the structure of your experience. Everything makes sense to say your message. And Japan had a very coherent message talking about circularity, responsibility. There were no really big screens, big immersion. There were big moments, spatial moments where you could feel surrounded. And there were small moments where you could focus on content and always find the same message: the responsibility, the great ideas, to find great solutions that are flexible in our world today, which will help us for the future, for example, to have solutions that last longer. Other experiences within bigger immersive spaces, I found in the Netherlands Pavilion a very little moment where I was holding this object that was lit during the whole journey, and I could see that object as part of their multimedia. Mm-hmm. So immediately I could connect that I was part of that multimedia show. I was part of their story. By holding this light, I could see it there. So this connection was a very sweet moment. Another example I really liked was Italy Pavilion. Mm-hmm. I was saying before, for Peru Pavilion, we had to choose. That was our strategy. We cannot tell it all. It's just too much. We choose. But Italy, they put everything in one moment. And I was so surprised that it was beautiful. That was really the essence of the country. So They choreographed all the resources they had: space, light, music, audiovisual, physical. Everything was choreographed, dancing in front of you, surrounding you, and conveying you the spirit of the country. So there are many ways to approach exhibition design and experience design. And from Japan, I would highlight these three experiences. And from then another perspective, I was thinking also that you have to think about the audience that will visit the expo. In Japan culture is one way. In Saudi Arabia, the culture will be different and people behave differently. For example, in Japan, people is willing respectfully to stand in queues for hours. I personally find that very hard. I would just not even start the line because I don't feel able to stand so long. But they would. And that's something that reflects also in the master planning of the whole venue. So we have to think about the audience that will visit the expo, to design it, to cater them, their behaviors in groups, in single people, families, so that it can satisfy a bigger or a larger group of visitors.
I think you told me something off the record about the Saudi pavilion at Osaka Expo 2025.
Yes, I was telling you about Saudi Pavilion. This time, the choice for the program during the 6 months was to rotate the content. So that allowed the country to bring different artists across the 6 months. Okay. Of course, that implies having a permanent team creating those contents, coordinating with artists, bringing the artists to the expo site and country. But it really added a lot of, I will repeat, content to the country across these 6 months. Every visitor that went to Saudi Pavilion didn't see the same experience than others. It was shifting constantly, so enhancing and expanding the potential of communication. And this, of course, has an impact in operations. You have to think when you design your pavilion, how you're going to operate it. How is your staff flowing, security, maintenance? You need offices. There are countries, I will say the case of Peru, for example, the aim is to have commercial meetings, commercial events, so that we have, of course, visibility in numbers from our commercial goals. So you need to have offices. You need to have stages. Are you going to have events? Are you going to have dancers or movies? So these spaces are not only the exhibition. Pavilions usually have so many other facilities to engage with our visitors, with business partners, with cultural and diplomatic partners. And that is a program that also needs to be designed for the 6 months. And thinking about queuing, about use of the restrooms, about a gift shop, how you are going to create visitor circulation, maybe different to a VIP circulation. So it is a very complex design process that should be done in a cohesive way.
What you mentioned is continuous operation management.
Yes. It's very important because a country may just invest so much in design and architecture. We build it.
Yeah.
And then it has to run 6 months. And it has to be interesting every day, and it has to run properly every day. And your story has to live inside the pavilion through your staff, through your own events, through your own offer to the overall program of the expo.
Oh, great. Very insightful. So 4 years from now, the big day, the big event. So many of the participant country has started or will very soon start planning their concept and conceptualize their pavilion. So what are the key 3 questions they should ask before starting the process?
I think there are 2 big ones, and they are under the same umbrella, which are, one is, what is the budget? what can the country afford? Is it a self-built pavilion? Is it a rented pavilion? Every expo has their own structures to make it accessible for the countries. For example, Peru Pavilion had a self-built pavilion for Dubai, but in Japan, they chose to have a rented pavilion. And that means the scale of the project is just different. So depending on the country and the budget, the country may choose for one or the other option. This, of course, impacts the design. But what also impacts the design is what is the story. So the country also has to know what do we want to portray in this international dialogue, to what of the sub-themes do we fit better, where do we have more to say, or where do we want to position ourselves suddenly. So those are choices that countries do need to have from the very beginning, and that will inform the design process.
So a great point that they have to think about the theme and the sub-theme and how they want to work around that. Because actually my question is, yes, how can the pavilion teams, have that balance between representing the nation identity, their national identity, while they are still aligned with the story of the global event narrative?
Well, as countries, we are all part of the global problem, I will say, or the global concerns.
Yeah.
So we have to stay true to the country we are and to our stories. So I would think in which way we are facing those problems.
Yeah.
How are they challenging for us as a country, and what are we doing? Or what is our potential? Or we may say, we may have just one very special asset, but if we collaborate together in this way or that way or this other way, we can create something great for the future. My recommendation would be to stay true to the country and simplify the messaging as much as possible. Choose 2-3 aspects and try to bring another context to them, as if we were looking from another lens to our story, so that we can surprise the audience and not have expected stories in our space.
Very interesting. And you see, we are living in the AI revolution. So many countries will focus heavily on AI, AR, immersive displays. So how can they strike balance between technology and authentic storytelling?
Technology has to serve the message. It has to serve our design intent. We always have to start with understanding what is our content. So what do we want to tell? Why do we want to say it now? And then see the ways we bring that into space and use the technology resources that are available to do that. Many times it happens in creative agencies. We have a client with a big budget and they suddenly just want the latest technology just for the sake of having it. But we have to think the opposite. We have to start with what we want to say, how we want to bring it into space, and then choose the right technology tools to convey it. Otherwise, we may end up having a very visually appealing experience, but it will be empty of content. It won't stay in your audience memory. It won't move your heart. It won't connect. So we have to be careful with technology and use it always as a resource or as a tool that is led by our human minds and creativity and decisions that look forward to convey a specific content.
Absolutely. So we spoke about the learning from the success and the insight from your success stories. Let's move to the mistakes and the pitfalls that usually pavilion teams fall into when they are working or designing on or conceptualizing their pavilions, and how can they avoid them for the upcoming Expo 2030?
Well, like every project, things change.
Yeah.
And there is always, especially in expos, the need to coordinate, manage, and communicate among many different stakeholders.
Yeah.
So being aware of that and preparing your proper teams to do so, identifying who are your stakeholders from the beginning, for conforming your team properly so that there is someone in charge of all these communicating channels, definitely. Starting on time. That happens very often, that we just delay the starting point or the decision making. And the timeline may be shifting while we move forward. And we have also to reflect some adaptability in our plan, but also in the design. So trying to work together, for example, architecture and interior is an advice I strongly recommend, if possible, so that it can adapt or it can inform one to the other. In Japan, I was in a great pavilion. I really, really liked it, but I was surprised that they relied a lot on projections, but the space had big windows. So this, I thought it might be that the architecture design was one at some point, and on the course of the development, the interior had to change so that it wasn't really serving the interior anymore. The architecture wasn't really serving the interior. So there you might find that some moments where the story doesn't really come across, but it wasn't a mistake. It's just how things happen sometimes in projects, and you try to find the solution. So to avoid that, trying to work architecture and interior experiences together is, for me, something that we should aim to do in every pavilion project.
Yeah. Great. So let's talk more about Riyadh. Riyadh as a city is positioning itself as a hub for innovation, creative. So, and with Expo coming, it will serve for culture, collaboration, and how you see it in this way for artists, storytellers, designers. You are one of the designers now in Riyadh. How you see this impact of hosting Expo?
I think there is a big chance to create big change with this Expo, as the city is welcoming so many different profiles of companies, professionals, growing so much in so many projects in the city, that this is already an incubator of collaboration, of design, of change. So this is already a great example of what the Expo could be in 5 years or 4 years. I would say that as part of the Expo, there should be already events that bring people together to co-create and collaborate what can be the future about. Because Expo doesn't have to stay these 6 months. We can think about Expo if it's an event that is aiming to transform the country and the world. It takes time, so we can start from today. All the people interested working for Expo, there could be a hub for the teams coming to Riyadh to work for the project, a place where they gather. And from that point, we are already changing the world. We are impacting with our collaborations, with learning from each other for the same purpose. So it is a big scene and a big opportunity to connect already with Saudi culture, with international professionals, and together start designing the next Expo, but also the future for the country and for the world.
Yeah, of course. And this brings us to my next question about what role Saudi talent play in in such event on this scale, and how also international teams can work effectively with them.
This is, I will say, their expo. It's the Saudi Expo. It is mirroring the change and the openness and the responsibility the country is facing towards the future and younger generations. So this is also a platform for Saudi talent to get involved, to start learning, the youngest, to combine their skills with skills that are coming from abroad and just really jump in a big platform to future opportunities. Because right now in Riyadh and in Saudi in general, opportunities are everywhere. So the teams that are coming to work for Expo, they definitely will need Saudi talent as part of their team because they are the ones who know the culture. Saudi talent, Saudi teams are the ones who will feed the experiences and the opportunities to design with the right content, who will validate, yes, this is correct, who will be suggesting the lens that will appeal to their own audience. And that will, for these generations, just be such a big jump to what they can do next in the future in Saudi, but worldwide.
Yes, right. Okay, so if there is anything that the pavilion teams can do from now, what would it be?
Come here. I think it's good to be here because you need to know the culture. You need to know how things work, from paperwork to creative thinking, to communication, to culture. How does it work in Ramadan? How does it work by the end of the year? How does it work in winter, in summer? It's just, for many of us, I include me, it is another world. So being here, it's just so necessary to connect and establish a good communication way with the culture. So definitely being here, understanding what's happening, what are the changes, what are the projects, because the projects that are running right now and will be finished by 2030, those are shaping the way the city will work, the country will aim to work completely, and the region. It's shaping a new narrative for the region, definitely. So yes, we can work from abroad, but I think it's strategic to be here and to start knowing about Saudi Arabia from today.
Of course. Ending with this question, your single piece of advice for any participant country and any pavilion teams?
I think this is a great chance to be bold, a great chance to just prototype the most future-looking idea we can all have and seek always collaboration, connecting to people, keeping in mind that the expo is, for me, in my perspective at least, a lot about connection, the opportunity of creating this space that brings people together to look for a better future.
Okay, yeah. So good. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Diana. It was a very insightful discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching us, and see you next time. Thanks.